Agreed.
Call this meeting to order. Today is July 25th, 2017. This is a regular school board meeting, business meeting. And at this time, I'd like for you to all join us, and we have Ms. Justice lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, ma'am. Next item would be the adoption of the orders of the day. Would anyone like to make any moves from the consent to the action? Seeing none, I need a motion for approval.
Move approval.
Okay, I got Zor. How about second?
Second.
Okay, Justice. All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign, 5-0. Okay, next item will be the presentation. Dr. Rendell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have one presentation tonight. It's actually a presentation on the final draft of our strategic plan. This is a process that we have engaged in over several months with our community to develop a 5-year comprehensive strategic plan for our district. And Mr. Green is going to share with us a PowerPoint presentation of the final draft of the strategic plan and the work that's gone into it. But this has really been something we've done with our community over the past several months. Mr. Green.
Thank you, Dr. Rendell, board members. So some of this will be a repeat from the workshop today, but we wanted to take the opportunity to ensure that our community heard the feedback that we've heard along the way and how we've made changes from the initial draft to the final draft. So just going back and reminding us that we had 6 phases starting on February 1st, so we're just shy of 6 months in this process. We are now in the moving away from the design into the launch phase. Pending board approval tonight, we will move into a communications launch phase and a succeed phase that we'll talk about at the end of the presentation. So just reminding us how we got to the initial draft, there was a lot of preparation, a lot of work, assessing documents, on-site interviews, engagement sessions. We had over 27 different targeted engagement on-site groups, town hall meeting, online survey, we had some board workshop, and out of all of that, we came to some agreement on some themes and goals that emerged from those, some overarching goals. We then kind of researched our logo as we were looking about how our plan would support the community, and just the logo coming together as the homeschool and community in a community partnership, all moving towards student success. That's kind of how we've centered the plan, and you'll see that in the visual on the strategic plan is that homeschool community, and we've labeled homeschool community around the logo, and a lot of people have recognized they didn't understand that history, and it's been a good talking point for us to kind of go back and revisit the history of how the logo came about, but then you'll see the 5 overarching goals all surrounding the logo. And we presented on the left an initial draft to the school board and to the community. We had a town hall on it. We got information and feedback, and now this evening before you on an action agenda, you'll see the final draft plan. So from 6/27/17 school board meeting, after we presented that initial draft plan, where we reviewed the timeline, the process, the goals and objectives, we had feedback. That Thursday, the 29th, we had a town hall meeting, and then we opened up an online survey. And based on that feedback, we made some changes to the plan, and I'll just summarize a few of those. So this just has a layout of the various pages, and as we went through, and I'm just going to summarize some of these for the community. One of the #1 themes that we heard in the feedback was this is really good goals, good targeted areas, but where's the specificity around specific measurable targets and goals and objectives? So we're actually going to address that on the next slide, and that was the overwhelming feedback that we got, or constructive feedback, was around having specific measurable goals and targets. So we're going to address that in just a minute. But basically, the major changes were on page 8, where we took our measures of success. They were numbered. The strategies were numbered 1, 2, 3, and the measures of success were 1, 2, 3. And there was some confusion thinking that each measure of success went only with one strategy. So we've relabeled those measures of success to be ABC because some of those measures can be a measurement instrument for more than one strategy on the left. So that helped clear up some confusion. We expanded the focus on English, language arts, and math to include all statewide standardized assessment based on the feedback, not to forget science and social studies and the other assessed areas. And we brought a focus to K-3. That's been a community initiative for many years now, and we wanted to make sure that was kind of lacking in our plan, and we noticed that through the feedback. So we've expanded it to make sure we've highlighted that work at the K-3 level. And then on page 11, that was probably the biggest area of changes, was around high-quality educators. And the feedback we got is educators, really a key part of student success, but there are also many others within the organization that support that. So the feedback we got was change it to high-quality workforce. So that encompasses educators plus all the other support staff that we have that it takes to make those things happen on a day-to-day basis. And within that section, we also reorganized it. So now the objectives are attract, support, and retain. And they follow the goal, and that was feedback we got from the community. So based on the online survey and the town hall, we've digested all of those, all that feedback, and we've made changes to the plan, and that's been online since last week. But so really what I want to address for the community is, well, where are the specific measurable targets and objectives? So what has not come forth yet, which is in the final stages, which is the success phase, is the monitoring tool. So this is an example of goal 1, student success. Objective 1, all students graduating with the skills necessary for college and career ready. And we've just highlighted 2 of the measures of success to be an example. We've highlighted the graduation rates for all students, and that was the measure. When we had the town hall meeting, we shared that the measure of success was the graduation rate for all students and for every subgroup. But what we didn't have at the time was the monitoring tool to share that within that one measure on the right, you will now see multiple rows. So now we have the district graduation rate at 87.2%. and a goal of a 2% improvement to 89.2. And as you know, the superintendent's goals last year was a 2% improvement, which the district exceeded. So then there's a breakdown, white, Hispanic, black, multiracial, and Asian, of each of the measured subgroups by the DOE, the state of Florida, their baseline or current state, and then the desired goal or outcome. And then the third column that's empty now will be filled in at the end of the year to determine if the measure has been met and if there was success and if we met our goal. The second example is performance of students on the assessments in grade K-3. And as we said, we're bringing a focus to the K-3. So that would be measured through the percent of students at or above the 50th percentile on the iReady Spring Diagnostic. So we've listed where we were at the end of last year. Kindergarten at 50%, first grade 51, second grade 55, third grade 58. And we've set a 5% improvement goal on each one of those. Just to be clear, there will be some type of measure, specific measure for every single measure of success throughout the document. However, some of them, some will be qualitative and some will be quantitative. They won't always be as easy as a percentage. There might be times when we outline via text where we are in the process of a teacher pathway program or where we are in a recruiting plan. So we might describe our current state and then the desired goal so that we'll have quantitative and qualitative specific targets as we go through. So this is just an example to show the community that the high-level strategic plan, the 5-year board strategic plan, is not the end of the measurement tool. That's just the beginning. That's the very high level that we want to work toward. But there will be an annual monitoring framework with specific measures of current, desired, and the final outcome measured at the end of the year. So and that really addressed the majority of the feedback that we got from the initial draft plan. So just some next steps is that the final plan is part of the action item on this evening's board agenda. Pending board approval, we would then go back and finish the annual strategic monitoring plan. You're not approving that framework or those goals tonight. the plan is on there, but we want to make sure the community knows that the next step is to fill that out all the way for every goal, every objective, and every measure of success, and then a communications and launch plan to go along with that on how to roll that out to the community. So we just wanted to take the opportunity to update the community and thank them for their engagement along the way. We've had lots of community input. Lots of people provide that support, and as you look through the plan, we are going to need a lot of community input and support to implement the plan over the next 5 years. And with that, that's it, Dr. Rendell.
Any questions from the board?
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to make note, in the workshop today, this plan was downloaded, did you say 900 times?
Yeah,
From the
we've
website.
got hit counters. The initial plan was downloaded over 932 times. And then all the different documents on the webpage have hit counters on how many times people have looked at the various. We've been putting the documents out there along the way. And the initial draft plan had over 930, last time I looked, downloads.
Thank you. That's good.
Anybody else? I had one question, maybe two, Bruce. Who's going to monitor this plan and to make sure that we're on target with it? How's that going to happen?
Yep, and then I'm going to let Dr. Rendell jump in and piggyback on that as well. But we are going to go through as departments and divisions and schools and complete the framework once the plan is approved. We will work with Dr. Rendell on setting goals, and then as we shared at the workshop, I believe a lot of Dr. Rendell's superintendent goals will be tied in with this, and that's where I'll let him add some feedback if he'd like to that.
I
Sure.
really mean at the end of the year,
Correct.
end of each year.
So the short answer is that the board is going to review our progress on this 5-year strategic plan at the end of each year.
But somebody's going to be putting those numbers together.
Correct. So
for
the
us.
annual reporting framework, staff will put together, and we'll prepare a report for you at the end of each year, and we'll say, hey, these were our goals, this was our strategies, these were our outcomes, we either met the goals or we didn't, here's what we did well, here's what we need to improve on for next year. Do we need to revisit that goal, maybe set a different target, that kind of thing. So it's a 5-year plan, but we don't make it and put it on the shelf, we're going to revisit it every year.
That was the
We
other-
work on it throughout the year, but we present a report to you at the end of each year.
That's the other thing that I wanted to make sure that the folks out here knew, is that it's not going to be, we didn't spend all this money and all this time and effort just to put it on the shelf. It's going to be a working document for us, I guess.
Yes, sir. Theoretically, anytime we get up against a major decision, we're going to say, well, does it support the 5-year strategic plan? Does this work, or this, whatever it is, decision we're making, buying this or not buying this or whatever, is it something that supports our goals as identified in the 5-year strategic plan? If it doesn't, then we might decide not to pursue that.
Good. Thank you very much. Anything else? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I just wanted to say, and I was looking over at Bruce going to Mr. Green, you're going to plug it in. You're going to do that, because Bruce does so much for our school district and also for our community, and he interfaces with the community and the intake of all this information. He's been a great representative of the district staff and all the staff that has worked on this. I just wanted to thank.
Very good, thank you. Okay, anything else?
That's the end of the present.
No, I
Okay,
do.
Laura.
For the monitoring, tonight we're gonna approve the plan. How long will it take to put the monitoring framework together?
So there's two answers to that. The superintendent's goals, which will be tied to the strategic plan, will be available at the end of August. I'm not sure if all of the monitoring framework pieces will be ready by then. As Mr. Green stated, some of them are generating certain things. Like for one of them, there's a plan. We have to develop a recruitment and plan. So I don't know if that plan will be fully fleshed out by the end of August. But my superintendent's goals, which are tied to almost all of these goal areas, will be ready in August.
Thank you.
Good, okay. Anything else? Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is citizen input, and I have two inputs here, and we're going to go with Janet. And if you would tell us the rest of your name when you get up there, please, ma'am, I would appreciate it.
Hi, I am Janet Cernigliero. I'm the nurse at Vero Beach High School, and I just wanted to represent most of the nurses that work for our school district. We have 6 LPNs and 2 RNs, and one of the RNs. And I think we are under the CWA umbrella, and I know that you're looking at hopefully a 3% raise increase to CWA employees, so I wanted to speak on that. Our nurses now, the average salary for school nurses is about $64,000 nationwide. Florida is less than that. It's approximately $45,000 for nurses in the Florida area. I am one of the 2 RNs. I'm at the top of my salary cap, and I make just under $30,000 a year, which is a 10 percentile of the national average, and that puts us not only in the lower part of the Florida averages for school nurses, but of the entire nation. So with that being said, I wanted to also say I just spent my summer in Virginia, and there is a job back home in Virginia, the school nurse that does the same responsibilities and qualifications that I have, that I could apply for, that I'd be making $45,000 a year. And it concerned me a bit that we are not have that bar raised high enough to keep really good help. Well, I know we have difficulty finding good nurses to replace those that leave in our organization, and it's mainly because of the pay. So I wanted just to take a couple moments and encourage you to think over the 3% increase for those in our CWA group, and I know that would help out a lot of us employees at this kind of bottom rung here. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Cernigliaro. The next speaker is Beverly Rayford, maybe?
I'm Beverly Rayford, Clerical Area Vice President for our CWA, Local 31AT. I would have much rather go home tonight and take a nap, but I wanted to be here, not so much for me, but so many people have come and asked that we speak up about the raises we are requesting, which is not so much. I don't think it's so much, considering I'm getting paperwork from several people. But one thing I want to say, when I get here, I'm passionate. Not angry, but passionate. And thank God for elderly grandmas and all that teach us. I had a Grandma Polly, who was a friend's grandma, and she said, tell people what you want them to know and don't be mad. So I'm not mad when I come up here. I'm not angry, but I'm so passionate about this. We are struggling, and tapping on to what the nurse said, the secretaries have to cover the nurses, and for a long time they didn't have substitutes, and we had to do that, and it scared me half to death. I started counting one day students coming into the clinic. I stopped counting at 40. And it was not near the end of the day. At elementary school, they come in for everything. We've got diabetics, we've got kids with heart conditions, everything. These are the CWA workers in this unit, and we really need help. We don't want to contribute or be said to be a contributor to the poverty level in this county. Vero Beach, Indian River County, is bigger than that. You know, we don't want that stapled to us or placed on our backs. And one union member said to me today to please get up and say something. He said, it seems that everybody is getting raises or help except us. And he felt like, you know, the board is singling the CWA workers out. And I said, surely that couldn't be legal, you know, to raise the non-bargaining unit so comfortably and ignore the CWA. Surely we wouldn't put ourselves in a bad position like that. And then he came back with the people that are negotiating on behalf of the district, negotiated raises for their groups, IT and the other secretaries in the other group. And he said, and I don't know, please fact check this, and he said one of the members negotiating and representing the district got the cafeteria managers $4,000 to $6,000 a year. And I said, surely, if others are coming and raises are being approved, surely this time we won't get that change, 39 cents. And my time is up, I hear, but somebody else wanted me to mention how they've been with the district for over 11 years, and their pay was frozen at the 6-year point. And when we initially requested, and I know the negotiators represent the board,
Thank you,
they
Beverly.
offered status quo, no raise.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is approval of the consent agenda. I need a motion.
Move approval as published.
Second.
And who seconded that?
Mrs. Justice.
Justice, okay. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign, 5-0. Okay, now we go to the action agenda. Go to action agenda A, approval of the school district's 5-year strategic plan. Dr. Rendell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In action item A, we are seeking approval of the final draft of the 5-year strategic plan. We just got a presentation on it and a workshop on it today, so I don't think you need.
Make a
any more
motion to
information.
approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye. All
Aye.
opposed, same sign, 5-0. Very good, thank you. And the next item would be action item B, approval to purchase student PCs from CDW-G through the NJPA 100614 contract for district-wide refresh. Dr. Rendell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In action item B, we're seeking approval to refresh desktop computers that are over 6 years old that are due for replacement. The cost impact of the district will be $495,000. This will be funded through the 0.6 voter approved, should be the 0.5 voter approved millage, or is it, no, it's from the carry forward. Mr. Green.
Which is
Yes, thank you, Dr. Rendell. So this is part of our annual refresh. The reason it's a 0.6, and we've discussed this before, the millage is November to November, and that's the way we cycle. That's why you'll see some carryover every year of millage, because we have to operate July, August, September, October, November before the new funds come in. So the 0.5 won't come in until November. So that's strategically why we do roll some of those funds over for the summer to be able to open school. We don't want to purchase the computers in April and have them sit in the warehouse all summer. We're ordering them right now just in time so we can get there. Another thing that I'm not sure if I've shared with this board or not, but it's a practice we started with several boards ago, is you'll notice there are not monitors here. So we've separated the monitors from that, and we have them on a different refresh cycle of 10 years or failure. So that way, these are only the desktop PCs with the keyboard and mouse, because those, after 6 years, if you've seen a kid use those, don't last very long. But we do separate the monitors. It is piggybacking a bid, and it is the refresh to get those older computers out for the start of the school year.
Move approval.
Second.
Any discussion?
Thank the voters for their generosity.
Second that too.
Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign, 5-0, motion carries. Next item C, approval to set public hearing date to adopt new school board policy 6334, pre-qualification of contractors for educational facilities construction. Dr. Rendell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In action item C, this request is for board approval to proceed with the adoption process for school board policy 6334, pre-qualification of contractors for educational facilities construction. The purpose of this new policy is to bring the district into compliance with state requirements for educational facilities, or SREF. Public hearing and adoption will be held during the regular business meeting on September 26, 2017. So we're just asking for your approval to set the public hearing date tonight.
Move approval.
Justice.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I do. I
Yes.
have,
Okay, Ms. Orr.
I read through this a couple of times, and I was hoping maybe Mrs.
It'll be Mr. Morrison or Ms. D'Agresta.
D'Agresta could explain what this actual change is.
Change in one word. Okay.
Thank you,
yeah,
Mr.
sure.
Chairman.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. There is a regulation adopted through the State Board of Education. It's called the State Requirements for Educational Facilities. We all call it SREF, so if you recognize SREF. And there is a requirement in SREF that all school boards have a pre-qualification process in place in order to pre-qualify various construction trades on an annual basis. And you may recall several months ago, one set of general contractors were brought through the process to be pre-qualified by the school board through a process. This puts it into policy, because what SREF tells us is we have to actually have an adopted policy that sets forth the criteria that we will follow here in Indian River to pre-qualify trades or contractor trades within the district. So you may see such things as additional general contractors come through. You may see roofers or other types of construction trades come through a pre-qualification process, and it would work through the purchasing department where they would look at such things as bonding capacity, insurance, the history of the company, those sorts of general background information. And then when the school board is ready to actually select someone to do some work, depending upon the value of the project, the pre-qualified vendors would then maybe bid on a large project, or if it's a smaller dollar project that is within the superintendent's purchase order authority, then the purchasing department would work with the superintendent and select a pre-qualified vendor, doing perhaps just getting quotes as opposed to a full-blown bid, and then select someone from our pre-qualified list to use as the person for that particular project. So it's a broad-based policy. It's not for one particular vendor, but it's a broad-based pre-qualification.
All right, I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
No, that helps.
I have a question. I don't know who it should be addressed to, but I noticed on page 4 of 8, item B, audited financial statements are required. Does that eliminate any small contractors? Because audited financial statements are a pretty big deal these days. I don't know who can answer that. Somebody, okay?
Yes, each local school board could do it a little differently. You can certainly request audited financial statements, but you'll see in the language here that the requirement for financial information can also be satisfied by written verification of bonding capacity. So you can typically get that from your insurance broker or the company that helps the contractor with their bonding requirements can provide such a letter that explains their bonding capacity. So there's two different ways to kind of get at that information. It's really so that the board has a sense of comfort that the entity, the company that's coming forward has the wherewithal to actually come and do business here in Indian River. It's for protection of the board, sir.
Okay. And these renewal certificates, they're handled annually. Have we ever disqualified anybody?
I'd ask Mr. Carver to come to the podium.
To answer your question, we're still in the first year of doing it this way. So we're going to be bringing the current pre-qualified contractors in December.
Okay.
And so to answer your question, no, we haven't.
You never have in the past,
anybody.
okay. All right.
And the policy outlines what the required submittals are for renewal. So we'll follow that once it's approved policy.
Good answer. Very good. Thank you very much. Anything else? Yes.
Just though, we've had something similar though with the smaller business items with pre-qualified. So it's, my conception of this is that it's the same thing, only on this is contractors, correct? We've done it with
Architects and
architects and,
roofers.
yeah, roofers. So this is really just more of the same procedurally, but in the new policy.
Yes, ma'am. So it's across the board for pre-qualification of all those types of contractors, not just one.
Anything else? I have a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. 5-0, motion carries. Thank you very much, Mr. Carter. The next item is D, Approval to award request for proposal 15-0-2017 JC to Express Reel Grinding. Dr. Rendell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In action item D, we're seeking approval to award the RFP to Express Reel Grinding for a one-year contract to service a set of athletic fields. The term of the RFP is from July 25th, 2017 to July 24th, 2018. The total cost is $112,565.25. Mr. Bob Michael, I'd asked him to come to the podium. He has actually done some work researching this particular issue. He can talk about the process that was used to select this particular vendor. This vendor did perform this service in the past year, but under a different contract. One of the things Mr. Michael did was put this out to RFP, so there's some differences in the contract for this year, and he can speak to that. So, Mr. Michael, if you could.
Correct. Good evening, Board. As Dr. Rendell was saying, when I came on board in January, I heard a lot of complaints about the athletic fields, and in researching it with my staff, what we determined was that there were some gray areas in the contract, so mostly to do with who was supplying certain equipment and whose role it was to fill holes in the fields. So I worked with my staff and Jeff Carver in developing the RFP for the 2017-2018 contract period, and we corrected those gray areas. So now it's spelled out very clearly that the awarded contractor has to supply all the equipment. The equipment that was supplied by the district in the old contract really wasn't the day-to-day stuff, the mowers and things like that. It was more heavy equipment, backhoes and skid steers and things of that nature that weren't used on a daily basis. The district currently in its inventory does not have the reel mowers that the contractor uses to maintain the fields. They're a special mower, a fairway mower is basically what we call them. So, I provided Dr. Rendell with a cost analysis to determine whether taking this work back in-house, there was a cost benefit to it versus contracting the work out. So I don't know if you have that in front of you. I'll go through it very quickly. I did a two-year analysis. So the first year analysis is under the purple header. It includes capital equipment purchases that would be required, because once again, we don't own in our inventory a lot of the equipment that would be needed, most significantly the reel mowers. So as we go down through the descriptions, I'm budgeting for 1.5 FTEs to maintain the 6 schools. There's 12 fields at the 6 sites. We currently do not have the skill set to do this in the department. The person who was maintaining the fields prior to it being outsourced unfortunately passed away. That position was never filled. I do have some members of my team that probably could move into those roles, but they currently are assigned to other tasks. So if we move forward with taking this work back in-house, we would have to budget for 1.5 FTEs. And I was very conservative with coming up with that number. My gut feeling is we probably need 2 FTEs to maintain 30 acres of fields. However, I wanted to be competitive with the market, so I limited it to 1.5 FTEs. Underneath the labor column, you're going to see a column for capital equipment purchases. That's in the year 1 cost analysis. Significantly, it's going to be the cost of the reel mower, which is $45,000. The feedback I received from my staff also was that some of our equipment, the spreader and sprayers, are at end of life cycle. So I've budgeted $10,000 there, and roughly $2,500 for miscellaneous tools the staff would need. The material cost, as you can see, is in column 2. That amounts to the fertilizer, roughly 3 tons a year. The chemicals, the top choice pesticide treatment, and the winter rye. All of this currently is being supplied by the contractor. One of my staff members went out and actually found actual pricing for this type of material and provided this estimate. And we're budgeting $35,007 for material cost. Our fuel cost, which currently is provided by the vendor, I'm estimating roughly 2 gallons per acre at 30 acres that they mow. And they mow weekly, so it's roughly $7,000 annually for diesel fuel. And then I budgeted for routine equipment maintenance costs, things like sharpening the blades, which is on a regular basis for this type of work, and just general maintenance, oil changes, things of that nature. So as you can see at the bottom of year 1, columns 1, 2, 3, and 4 amount to $182,060 in year 1 cost if we were to bring this work back in-house. Under the green header, athletic field maintenance year 2 cost analysis utilizing in-house workforce, I've deducted the capital equipment purchases for year 2. You can see columns 1, 2, and 3 remain the same for labor cost, material cost, and fuel cost. I've reduced the cost for equipment maintenance just to $5,000 instead of the purchases that we would have to make in year 1. And if you follow that through, it'd be roughly $124,560 in year 2. At the very bottom of the spreadsheet, I did a cost difference between contracting this work out and providing the work with our in-house staff. Adding columns 1 and 2 for year 1 and 2, the physical plant staff budget would be $306,621.80 versus the contract that we're recommending tonight for Express Rail, which for 2 years of contract would be $225,130.50. So it's a savings to the district of $81,491 to continue with outsourcing this scope of work, scope of services.
Any questions?
Do you have questions? Do we vote and discuss, or do we ask questions now?
We have a motion and a second.
Get a
first,
motion,
right?
okay.
I'll make a motion.
Take a motion, Mrs. Ork.
I'll second it.
Dale? Okay, now discussion. Ms. Justice?
I yield to.
Nope, we'll go
I-
down there. Yeah, go ahead.
Does Mrs. Zork want to speak to
She
her
was-
motion? Okay.
Just somebody talk.
My question would be, Dr. Rendell, may I address Mr.?
He's why he's here.
My question would be that when I'm reading the RFP or the contract, it says the district would be supplying, district will make repairs to the irrigation system due to normal wear and tear and supply the equipment to verticut, vacuum, spread, sand, and aerate. The verticut, is that the real mower that's used to do the verticut?
Actually, the way the contract, on page 1 of the contract,
Yes, sir, under
we actually
scope
did
of
an addendum to it. So if you looked at
Oh, so-
addendum 1.
Sorry, I
that's
did
okay.
not add that, obviously.
Yeah, no, I apologize. Addendum 1, we actually corrected that language.
Okay.
And it was
so-
unfortunate that we thought we had that in there, and then when the RFP went out, we realized we didn't. We made an addendum, so it addresses the holes being filled by the vendor. It also addresses that all equipment will be supplied by the vendor.
Okay, great, thank you. That answered my question. My question was about the sand spreader. If it was near the end of its life, then you'd be encumbering that 10,000. Okay, thank you.
Now, Ms. Ork.
No, I just think this is a wonderful presentation. Great job. I appreciate all the work you put into this. It clarifies everything, so I really do appreciate your time doing this.
Thank you, it's my pleasure.
You recognized? Thank you. Thank you for putting together this business case and analysis. It certainly makes this decision much easier. There's only one thing that I think we could do that is sometimes done in the private sector, and is that take that $45,000 initial investment and then calculate a replacement cost and fund those reserves. So I think that the 124 actually is closer to 133 if you take, assuming that it has a useful life of 5 years, so that's $9,000 a year we should sock away. So it's considerably more savings even than is presented here. So I'm happy to support this motion tonight, and I appreciate all the due diligence that went into this. Thank you, and thank you, Dr. Rendell, for making it happen.
Just a minute. I believe I heard you say that we're not going to be providing any equipment?
Correct.
Well, the
In the-
contract says that we are.
Well, if you turn to addendum 1 in the contract, that's where we corrected that mistake. So in the page 1 of the contract, the old language was still in that contract.
Where's addendum
However,
1?
Jeff added an addendum to the contract.
I didn't have an addendum.
Wait.
Do you have an addendum? You don't have addendum?
I received amendments to the backup, but I don't, and I replaced them in my bind, the ones I received, but I don't believe I
I don't see
received
it.
that amendment.
I actually
To
have
that
your
contract.
documents here, so if you'd like to see it.
Sure, I'd like to see it.
I'd like to see what you got.
Thank you.
I highlighted the section that was corrected.
Well, that's part of the problem that I have with it. I'm not going to support it, and I've already talked to the superintendent about it, but we have one of the best field managers in the state of Florida that works for us, and we have him cutting down trees and grinding stumps. And the people that utilize these fields are not happy with the quality of work that is happening on the fields. I think that last year, I had the same questions last year, and I know that one of the board members questioned about you know, who's gonna fix the divots and all that good stuff? Well, our staff is doing that now.
Yeah,
And they're not supposed to, because we're trusting these other folks to get the job done, and if they're not doing the job, no wonder they're only charging $112,000 a year. But this, to me, you know, and I noticed in the beginning of the contract, it says or the blurb that we've got here, anyway, 1 of 8, says we're outsourcing. And that's kind of a sad thing for us to be doing, outsourcing, and just, I call it privatizing. And that's not been a real easy pill for me to swallow. And your presentation is marvelous. It's really good. And I wonder if indeed that we do need all of that equipment. I know we've got to maintain the fields properly, but, you know, a lot of this stuff, you know, a $45,000 piece of equipment, you don't have to pay for it this year. You can amortize that, I believe. And I'm not giving you a bad time. Well, yeah, I am too. But it just doesn't make sense to me that it just doesn't make sense to me. When we've got the best in the business in payroll, and we charge it out to somebody that's not really getting the job done to the satisfaction of our people that utilize the fields. So, Superintendent, I've already talked to him, and he knows I'm not going to support it, but this just doesn't make sense to me. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Mr. Superintendent?
Yes, ma'am.
So I just want to say, I actually have heard some really good things about Express Rail Grinding and the company itself, and I think perhaps the confusion came in the maintenance of the field because it wasn't clearly stated as to what the expectations were.
Yes.
So now that that language has been cleared up, I think I had heard the same concerns, but I'm much more comfortable with that. And as long as everyone's clear on what the expectation is, and I don't know if that part changed, but I would imagine it didn't, that, you know, the expectation is it will be in top shape all the time, whatever type of work that requires. I would imagine in the 124, that company is
I agree,
well
Mrs.
aware of the
Justice.
expectation.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I did go out and talk to all of the athletic directors, and Mr. Aarons and Kelly Ward and Ms. Upchurch and Mr.
Did you talk to the head football coach at Vero Beach High School?
I talked to Mr. Aarons, and I talked to Lenny over at the field.
Coach Jankowski.
Yeah, Mr. Jankowski.
Jankowski, yeah.
And to be quite honest with you, the complaints, I actually have the Post-it note from those meetings back in April, March and April, and they were related to the gray areas in the contract, the holes not being filled. Right. They were related to clippings on the track and the goalposts not being weed eated. Quite frankly, you know, that's my job and my management team's job to manage that up with these contractors. Whether it's an in-house person doing the job or whether it's a contractor, that's my responsibility to make sure that they do live by that contract and we hold them accountable. And quite frankly, I mean, we will going forward. I've already had several meetings with the vendor to let them know the expectation has changed, as well as the landscape vendor, who's a different vendor. I've had many conversations with him.
Well, we're in the process of finalizing a $7 million project at Vero Beach High School, and we need that field to look like $1 million to fit that $7 million project. And I just think when you've got the quality person that we've got, and we've got him doing something else, and they're gonna call on him if they need help, this doesn't make sense to me. So that's my 2 cents worth. Any other discussion?
Well, I just want to say my 2 cents worth is we're going to save $81,491. So that's more than 2 cents, right?
It adds up to that, yes.
Right. So I feel comfortable with the changes in the contract, and this is only a 1-year contract, correct?
I believe so.
So if it's not, if the gray area isn't fixed here, we have a year to figure that out and save.
Well, you just heard the gentleman say that they've had all these shortcomings with the group that's handling the thing now that we're fixing to renew the contract with. So, well, that's what I heard.
No, that's not what I heard, though.
You didn't hear him say they weren't getting the job done?
What I heard was there were gray areas that through the RFP process have now been addressed. And that's why I've moved, you know, my support from one to the other is that there wasn't an RFP process. There was folks were unclear as to their roles and expectations. And I love that we have a gentleman standing here who's saying, I'm ready to be held accountable. That's not something you see a whole bunch in government. So I'm tremendously appreciative and ready to rock.
Well,
Yes, sir.
we got his name down by it.
Yes,
And,
sir.
When do we, right after football season, I guess we'll come in and
Mr.
check it out.
Carver,
Okay. Ms. Justice, you had something, I'm sorry.
No, sir, that was,
Cut you off.
I do want to add that we want to make Sebastian High School football field look like $1 million too.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Susie?
And I meant both fields, because I think the same issue is at both fields.
thank you.
All right, anything else?
We're not spending $7 million, that's passionate.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. No. 4-1. Okay, very good. Okay, superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, I'd like to call Nick Westenberger up to the podium if he can give an update on Beachland and the Citrus Bowl, that project that we were just speaking about.
Good evening. Before we talk about Beachland and the Citrus Bowl, I'd just like to make note that the Facilities Department had 20-plus summer projects going on that we're managing right now. So I want to say a special thanks to my staff, Michelle Simons and Rick Huff, for running those projects, and also the contractors that are working hard to get those things completed in a very short summer period. So just wanted to bring that up real quick. Beachland, not much to say really. We're about 98% complete. We're going through right now with the final punch list. We're doing full cleaning right now. The buildings are fully operational. We're going to be doing some cafeteria training with the staff the beginning of August, first week in August, to make sure they're up to snuff with all the new equipment that's put in there. Like I said, the punch list items will be addressed going forward within the next couple of weeks, and we expect to have everything ready and the teachers on site on the 7th. So really good shape there. The Citrus Bowl, obviously, is still a work in progress. We're working very hard to make sure that we're done by the first football game on 8/18, and we are fully confident that we will be able to host a football game open to the general public on that day. The site work we're continuing on out there. On the west end of the stadium, we're going to be grading and adding the sod in the next week. And then we're going to go ahead, the water meter's installed, so we're ready for water, so the toilets will flush, the water fountains will work, everything will be up and ready to go. The perimeter fencing is still going on, so we'll have that single point of entry in off of 16th, 2 entries off of that. The buildings we're painting right now, we have power now. We just, Vero Beach, City of Vero Beach was giving us power, so we've got permanent power to those buildings now. Painting the exterior, the men's and women's bathrooms, the fixtures are all set. The partitions are being installed, and the epoxy floors are all complete. The locker rooms are the same, the fixtures are set, the partition walls are being installed, and the epoxy floors are complete there too. In an effort to be transparent with everyone, I want you all to know right now that we do have an outstanding item. The lockers for the locker rooms themselves, the metal lockers. We as a team made a change to the lockers, which in turn threw us out of the production. The lockers are a long lead item anyway, and when we made that change, the manufacturer bumped us out of their production cycle. So the lockers themselves will be there after the first game. I've been working with Coach Jay. We were in the process of saying, hey, we're going to put some temporary lockers in. We're going to build temporary lockers out of wood. We're going to do what we're going to do. And Coach Jay and I had a discussion, and he said that's not necessary. We can live with what we have now. There'll be seats. The locker rooms will be fully functional, with the exception of the metal locker that's sitting behind the kids. So they'll sit down. They'll be able to use the facilities in there. They'll be able to use all the IT equipment that we provided in there. So everything will be functional, except for the lockers won't be there. So after the first game, when the Vero Beach High School team goes away to Virginia, I believe, the lockers will be installed and the project will be complete. So we're going to be functional, open to the public, with no lockers in the locker rooms.
Just a point of clarification, when you said we made a change to the lockers, to the type of locker that was going to be installed, we, the customer, i.e., it was Vero Beach High School that, consulted
Correct,
with them,
yeah.
and we changed the lockers that had been ordered, so customer satisfaction, we want to get them exactly what they want. But that threw us out of the sequence in locker
Correct.
ordering.
Correct.
And so we had to fall behind everybody else.
Correct, yeah.
How does that affect the drop-dead contract final date?
We will still have substantial completion, so.
Does that have to come back to this board for approval or extension on the contract?
Ms. DeAgresta, I'm not, I'll let her speak to that.
If the change to the scope of work requires an extension of contract time, then yes, that should be brought back to the school board to extend that final completion or that final acceptance date. But that would happen in one of the change orders that would come to the board for approval. Yes, sir.
Have we had any change orders on this project yet? I don't recall.
This is a CMAR.
I know, I understand.
So the change orders are within the scope of their contract already. So we have, I won't say that we've made change orders per se, aside from something like what we've done there.
Okay.
Which makes it the cost is the cost, but it's very clear that this isn't if it was a hard bid and it's not, it's when the client, makes the change order, which Vero Beach, which thank you for telling us, because it's not us with our, Vero Beach made the change for the type of lockers they wanted, so they have to accommodate themselves with the inconvenience, so.
And it was a team discussion, I will say that. We made a change.
And they're fine with it, so that's,
Yeah.
thank you for at least letting us know, I appreciate that.
I don't want to stand up here and.
Ms. Justice.
No, yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, sir, I'm sorry. I just want to say, I understand that while everyone's taking vacations and doing professional development and all of these things, that I think our facilities department and our maintenance department and everyone is working so hard. I know this is your busiest time of year. I hope that everyone gets to take vacation time at some point, because I know it's not happening this summer. And I know that you're one person down in the facilities department, so you're essentially doing the work of two people. I'm not sure how you're doing it. And I applaud how hard you're working, and I know that it's for students, and I just really appreciate all of the hard work of all of the employees this summer, so thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for your support.
Just a question, is it, the cost with the lockers, is it going to go up? Or is it
No,
just pretty well?
We essentially changed the configuration of the
Okay.
locker style. We added a lockbox. We wanted to have something for the kids to put their cell phones and stuff in, so.
Right.
And in the meantime, when we talked with the staff, we actually deleted a few lockers too. So
Okay.
we found that we probably had more lockers than we needed. So we deleted
Okay.
those lockers and then changed the style, so cost is a wash.
Okay. Well, just had to ask that question to know.
Any other comments? Nick, thank you very much. Appreciate it a lot,
Thank you.
awful lot.
Thank you, Nick. Board members, I was remiss, when we passed the consent agenda and there are promotions to the administrative ranks or other positions, I usually stop proceedings and ask to recognize those people. And tonight, we did have an administrative appointment, and I did not stop the proceedings, so I'm going to take the opportunity now. Ms. LaTanya Ross has been appointed to the position of Assistant Principal at the Technical Center for Career and Adult Education, so I want to recognize LaTanya.
Speak or anything? We could, all the rest of them always spoke.
Principal and above.
Yeah, but hey, LaTanya's here, it's
That's right.
We got plenty of
all her
time.
up, so.
Doing great on time tonight.
Put me on the spot, huh? Good evening. I've worked in the role of many different things while I've been in the school district during my career, and now as administrator. So I would like to thank the school board members, the superintendent, Dr. Rendell, as well as the principal, Christy Shields, for this awesome opportunity. So thank you all once again.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, Mrs. Shields, the principal at the TCCA, is also very thankful that LaTanya will be there as an assistant principal. One more new face, Nancy Esplin is our new board secretary, and she's here tonight, already working in that capacity, so we welcome Nancy to her role.
No speech on that. Okay.
She doesn't even have a microphone.
Mr. Chair, I'm done, thank you.
Discussion. Ms. Justice.
Yes, sir. I had asked Dr. Rendell at our weekly meeting, I had noticed when I was looking at consent and the personnel, the personnel agenda, that personnel recommendations, that there were some resignations, and I happened to know one of the people personally, and I know that they were leaving to move because her husband had received a position elsewhere in the country. So she was resigning from her position essentially because they were moving. So that just kind of struck me, and I said, how many resignations are we seeing and different things, people decide to have a baby or to you know, maybe they've taught for a long time and they want to open a furniture store. I don't know. But people make life choices, so I think it would be remiss of us to just kind of look and say, oh, resignation, that means they were unhappy in their job, and there's been a lot of coverage about perhaps that's the case, and I don't think it always is. So that just kind of struck me today, and I wanted just to speak to the board about it and see if anyone had any thoughts about it, and perhaps just something that struck me.
Thoughts about what now?
Just that a resignation, that just the word resignation, if we could maybe put something else on, if it could say, you know, I don't know, relocating or something to that nature, so that, you know, people make snap judgments about things. They see something and they just say, oh, they're resigning, and, you know, I've seen it written that somehow, you know, working in a river camp, I don't think that's the case. I think that there are times when people leave because they decide they want to stay home with their kids, or.
I think that'd be a good question for Mr. Green, the HR guy. What do you think?
Well, to speak to the question, board members in the past have asked for copies of resignation letters and those types of things, and we can provide those to the board members individually or specifically. We could possibly try to classify the types of resignations in some kind of report or code them on the consent agenda. Mr. Green, any ideas on how we could do that?
Yeah, I think we need to look at the different types and see if we could come up with some logical groupings for some of them, but we certainly could supply the resignation letters to the board as a matter of practice.
Mr. Searcy?
The grouping thing, I think, would be a good.
You know, we've had this happen before, and I really do have, and I appreciate that, but terminations are very public. Resignations are very private to people, and that we have public records requests, and anybody can come and ask for that letter. But I know sometimes people leave for family medical leave, and they don't want to be approached in the supermarket and say, I saw that who's sick, what's going on?
Yeah.
I think it's very private. So although maybe the media should research that better if they're reporting on it, but I wouldn't want to put our employees who've been faithful. So I just wanted to show the flip side.
Such a good point,
that
and I didn't really.
I think it's fine, but I agree with you. That's the problem with not showing details when you know there's so much in the press that research is important to a story in the press, I would think. But if you're going to cover people leaving, and keep people leaving include resignations for happy reasons, but sometimes not so happy, maybe illnesses, and I think that's a private thing. So resignation, although we used to, I believe we would get from Mr. Fritz, something in a memorandum, I think it was.
Correct.
Which wouldn't be back up and on the internet. So I would certainly like to continue to see that, and I think it was quarterly, if I remember right.
That's correct. There was a time in the past where the board.
You could also pick up the phone and say, excuse me, Dr. Rendell, can you tell me why this person's leaving? But I'm not comfortable with that. I hope that.
I totally hadn't even thought about it in that way. It was just that it struck me I had this personal connection, and I was, you can't judge a book by its cover always, and that was kind of the case.
Yeah. Because it could be, like you said, maternity leave or relocating, but then when you get to that family sick, even though that's not,
Totally, absolutely.
and with HIPAA and things like that, I'm comfortable with that.
John, did you want to jump in on that, or?
Well, I think that certainly there is a desire sometimes to tell the story, the full story, so that it's not told by others. But I think that Board Member Simchek has made some good points that kind of popped in my head too. Is not every story needs to be told.
Sure.
And if you're explaining, you're wasting your time. So I feel as though we have the information. I certainly appreciate the thought in bringing it forward, because it is good to sometimes tell the story, but there's sometimes that they're not entitled to the full story. So that's just life, and sometimes there are legal obligations to not tell the whole story, speaking to HIPAA or something like that, or FMLA, Family Medical Leave Act. So it's certainly a good point to bring up that not every separation is because they're dissatisfied, but at the same time, it's not necessary to explain every piece of our organization.
Ms. Orr?
Well, I think this goes back to we have been asking for a review of the exit interviews, and so somehow maybe tying this in together. I don't know if that's something that we could do. We don't have, the person doesn't have to be identified, but there is that survey that we could look at of reasons for teachers leaving or resignation. So that's something I'm still interested in, still waiting to look at, is the exit interview process.
I think we're supposed to be implementing that, more so than just check one of the 10 items here, the reason you're going, but I think that's something that at least I've talked about is making sure that we find out why our people are leaving. And I think the point is a good one, and somebody needs to know, because, you know, we read about the bad things that are going on in our district because we're not doing the job. Well, that's not the truth always. So, but I think that if we can do the exit interviews, we get a pretty good idea of what our superintendent and HR gets an idea of what's causing people to leave our district. We want them to stay. We want them to stay. So I think your point is a good one too, Laura, that the exit interviews may help
Clarify
answer the question that Ms. Justice
And
has.
also, I know that Mr. Green has been working on this, if I'm correct, right? The exit interview process?
Yeah, we're just finalizing that contract with the company to
Okay.
provide that exit interview that also provides phone calls instead of just the online survey. In case somebody doesn't do the online survey, they'll follow up with a phone call to make, and have a third party ask them those questions.
Right, and I believe one part of the survey says, do you want to remain anonymous, or because once you submit that survey, it becomes public record unless you say that, is that correct?
Yeah, at this point, the survey won't ask for their name unless they choose to
Okay.
give that.
So,
Are we still doing stay interviews? I know that we've had a little bit of a sea change over there in HR, and I want to make sure that we're sticking with stay
piloting
interviews.
stay interviews right now. We've been piloting them at the assistant superintendent levels with our direct reports. And then based on, we've reviewed some of the data from that, and we're working on what would be the next rollout, the next level of people to try those. So we have been doing them, but kind of at a pilot level to see how many times a year would we ask administrators to do that with, say, a teacher or support staff.
Great, but because the tendency in customer service is sometimes to focus on what's making people unhappy, and the district does some great things, and finding out why people are actually staying in the organization is incredibly invaluable information. It's something that the private sector has really picked up on. I'm excited to see it working here because, you know, we want to know what's making people happy so we can do more of it.
Yeah.
So that's the
a good
definition of
initiative.
stay interview? I've not
Yes, sir.
heard that
Yes,
term
sir.
used.
Well, it's you know, not the why are you leaving, but why are you staying?
Yeah, okay.
You know, what is it that kept you here this year? Is it just that you don't want to move, or you have your lessons planned, you've been teaching for a few years, or you're in a groove, you're ready to go? Or is it that you enjoy the benefits, you enjoy the summers, you enjoy professional development opportunities, things like that, things that we're doing that we can do more of and we can prioritize in our funding and budgeting and things like that. So it's just another information gathering tool, and I think that it's great to talk to happy folks within the organization too, or find out what's making them moderately happy and make them super happy. So it's good practice.
We were voted one of the best places in the state, or in the county to work for, I think.
The
didn't
best.
we?
The
Did we get
best.
that? Yeah.
It was the best.
Yeah, okay.
So, and the #1 employer for a number of employees, so.
All right. Ms. Simchek.
Thank you. You know, we vacillate between discussion and board members, so I'd rather just bring this up now so we could talk that, I wanted to welcome our new executive secretary, but assistant, but I did also want to publicly acknowledge and thank Judy Stang for a long career
Sure.
as a
Yep.
dedicated employee for the school district. She's served the district well, and she will be missed.
She did. And she's not here to hear that, so we'll have to tell her when we go in her office, but she can rewatch the meeting, right? Okay. Okay, Sean.
For discussion?
We're on
discussion.
discussion, yep.
Yes, sir. I've been contacted by a member of the media, and they want to know about 7069 and our board, and I just figured it'd be good to flesh that out. I see your article there, Mr. Searcy. I don't mean to steal your thunder, so if you'd like, I can yield the floor at this point.
That'll be fine. If you're going to say anything against it, go ahead. No, I'm kidding. I'm
Against the
kidding.
article? Yes, sir,
No,
I
no,
do
no,
intend
no,
to. But
Yeah, go ahead, finish.
Well, I just think that it's interesting that some of these elected folks are using taxpayer dollars to sue the taxpayers through the legislature and the governor. And I know that there's opinions vary on the legislation, but I just don't know that the court system is the best place to sort things out. So I understand why some school districts are doing it. I would like to bring up for discussion the idea of this board taking a position so that we don't have to take a whole bunch of calls independently, or not.
Well, no,
But I just think that you know, there was some stuff on Twitter that Andrew, I think, picked up on, and someone said, well, how do you know this? And I said, well, I can count heads and hear praise and things like that. But sometimes it's better to just have a discussion and sort of see where everyone is with it.
Thank you. Yes, so that big number one question that my constituents are asking is, are we going to join the Brevard lawsuit? Broward, excuse me.
Brevard is.
Yes, excuse me, Broward.
You're right, yeah.
lawsuit.
I mix this up too all the time.
We didn't mean to correct you.
That's fine, but, you know, it's like I said, so you're flushing it out. That kind of brings it out to, you know, it was a real potluck dinner soup bill, and I think that it has, while it has its merits, there's some things that are disappointing in it. So I don't really, you're right, I don't know how the position is for sure, as you said. So this is what we have the discussion for, so it's good to see if there's any traction to that type of, maybe I could ask the superintendent from a superintendent's point of view, being that, you know, we're dealing with finances and all sorts of things, for his opinion on the bill.
Well, there are certainly various aspects of the bill that are good for students, they're good for teachers, they're good for public schools. There are other aspects of the bill that depends on how they're implemented and what the end results are. You know, may not be quite as beneficial, but you know, I don't see too many aspects of the bill changing negatively our work here in Indian River County. So I can't direct the board one way or the other. You know, I work at your direction, but I don't see anything about the bill necessarily that's going to have huge adverse impacts in Indian River County to the point that I would say we need to take up and join the lawsuit.
And I do want to clarify, though, there was some budgetary issues, though. So can we flush those out for people who may not have watched the workshop? Because when we went through the budget workshop, there was, if the bill passes, it'll be this, but if it passes, we have to reserve. So maybe Mr. Morrison can recall, because I know we didn't put this on the agenda, and I apologize. But can you tell us the financial cost of that bill?
Are you probably starting with the charter school capital outlay impact?
I was going to ask that. Okay. Based on the most recent calculation involving the states, the way it's laid out in the legislation, it's about $1.4 million on an annual basis that would be allocated to charter schools. And we have made the corresponding cuts and adjustments that we need to make in the budget to accommodate that. And so we'll be in compliance with the law.
So I guess I could say my disappointment in the bill is that if you're going to give capital outlay to charter schools, I would at least expect them to have the building requirements that we fall under. I just wish that would have been included. They're going to take the tax dollar, and yet our building, you know what I'm saying? That would have been not enough to do a lawsuit, though. Right. But that would be probably one of the biggest things that, you know, if fair is fair, if we want to talk fair is fair, and it's all our students and it's all, you know, all shared equally, then why is the construction rules less? That's a problem, that they don't have to build up, and I don't know if you want to call it build to the SREF code. So that does cost more money. So I have a problem with that part of, like, I wish they could have said capital outlay and all blah, 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 because capital is over 1,000, which doesn't always have to be construction. It could be a laptop at these days. I mean, things, sneeze and it's over 1,000. But for the bulk of the lion's share of it, it's usually a structure and something that adds value to the school. And so I guess I'm disappointed in that.
Okay, Sean?
Thank you. I appreciate the frustration. I see it a little differently. The way I see it is, let's fix SREF. Let's find funding that if the district is required to build schools to a certain code because they are hurricane bunkers, let's get some money from FEMA. Let's get $2 million in allocation or whatever, the additional, let's see what it costs additionally and get those monies from the federal, since they're saying that that's one of the reasons they need our schools to be a certain way. Let's get those monies from the appropriate party rather than continuing a system that perpetuates unequal funding or perpetuates an injustice, really, because what it is it's based on per student funding. So I certainly understand that, but I think that fixing the other side of it, whether it's through the class size amendment, things like that that can be done, is a better way to go rather than continuing and perpetuating a system of unequal funding. That's just
I just want to rebut it. To answer that, though, not all schools are built as shelters. So let's say we're not going to pile everybody in Dodgertown. So the same thing with, let me use I'll say that the charter elementary school, or I'll use, where actually I was on the Indian River Charter School Board for the, Sebastian Charter Junior High, where they purchased, built on the same stamp, but actually had new construction and was not held to the same standard. Nor will they be a shelter. You're right, but not all of our schools are. So, and I can understand. It's, look, the bill went by, and I'm not going to do a lawsuit for what I feel is just one of the part of the bills that I just feel is, you know what I'm saying? We're vetting this in public because we are getting calls, obviously, and communication from people. So that's my feeling.
Well, speaking specifically to SREF, I think it's a little bit more than hurricane shelters. I think that there are certain parts of SREF, it's meant to protect children, it's meant to protect students. The Florida Building Code is not written with that intent, or with that intention. So things like the way that your students move on your campus, not being able to walk through, say, a parking lot to reach their playground or something like that would be an SREF compliance issue, but charter schools don't have that. So they can work around some of those things. Sand on the playground, SREF is requiring all of the sand to be removed and different things to be put into place, and there are different reasons, safety reasons for that. So, I hear what you're saying about some of the different things about building, but, SREF is meant to protect the safety of students, so there are good things about it as well, and in wanting to represent all students equally, I want to make sure that every campus that is in our county, charter school students, our public school students, all of their campuses are safe for them to learn. As far as the lawsuit is concerned, you say the taxpayer dollars I feel like school leaders in general, and I've followed this on social media and in the news, don't feel like their concerns were heard. So I think that this is maybe all they feel that they have left to do. I don't know that I'm in support of this board spending more money on legal fees as we continue to mount legal fees after legal fees. And I've heard Mr. Frost say before that we're paying lawyers and our job is to educate students. So I take confidence in what Dr. Rendell has said, that he doesn't feel that it'll greatly affect the job we're able to do here in Indian River County. And I was elected in Indian River County. I wasn't elected at a state level. So my focus has to be here first. That was my commitment that I made. There are things about this bill that I do not like. I would like to see teachers make more money, but I don't know that I like tying their bonuses to whether they're effective or highly effective when we don't agree about whether or not. I don't know that that encourages teachers to take on students in classrooms that are extremely challenging. Because if you're going to make more money because you're highly effective, then working with students that are going to help you to get that effect. It's a broken system to me, and to not like the system, but then to create rewards based around the way the system is set up, I think is faulty thinking. So there are things about it I don't support. Requiring the recess for traditional public schools and not for charter is another double standard that I don't understand why that exists. If it's what's best for students, that's what we should be doing. the Schools of Hope thing. Again, if you know that more money and increased flexibility and extending learning times on your campus is what means that you will help those students that are struggling in those schools, then why aren't we doing that for every school? Why are we only doing that for a certain portion of schools? Why are we not allowing superintendents and educators to provide those services at every school and fund education properly? So again, I don't know that I'm supporting the lawsuit because I don't want to funnel more taxpayer money away from students and into the pockets of lawyers. I just wish maybe the legislators had listened more to the school leaders, because the school leaders are truly the ones that are doing the jobs in their districts, and we have entrusted them to do that. And I put my confidence in the superintendent and his decision in that.
Ms. Ork.
I think I'm going to echo what two of my fellow board members had mentioned, that there's several parts of it that I don't like. One thing that we're going to have to really stress with our legislators and our representatives is the past couple of years, these large education bills that come at the very last minute. This is where the non-transparency is. And we have a Speaker of the House, Corcoran, whose campaign was all about transparency, but I didn't see this past session. You know, I did not see where he stood up for transparency whenever at the last minute we have everything thrown into the pot in this bill. And so then you had a lot of different groups supporting it and didn't really understand until the very last minute what was in there. So, you know, I'm very disappointed with the Speaker on this, and I think with our Representative Graw and Senator Mayfield, maybe we need to reach out to them and talk to them about, let's try to keep these education bills more separate, so at the last minute we don't have what happened here. A couple of things in the bill that I don't like, and I didn't like the way it was before, is I do not care for the way that the best and brightest was crafted in this bill. I agree with Dr. Rendell, and I've heard him speak on this, is that if we had those funds to put toward the educators in the schools that we would like to enhance, that would be a lot better than somebody's SAT score 30 years ago, which really doesn't have any relevance to where the quality of teaching is today. So there's several things in the bill that I do not like, but another thing I do not like are paying attorney fees. So, I mean, if this is, I think personally, areas that I don't like as a school board member, I would be willing to write a letter and say this is what I don't like in the bill, but for attorney fees, I'm not in support of spending attorney fees in that direction.
I haven't spoken. Oh, you go ahead. You got some.
No. I'm curious to hear your thoughts, Mr. Chair.
Hey, good. Well, one of my only two friends asked me to bring this up, and so I'm bringing it up. And what they're challenging is the constitutionality of the House bill. And I know I don't like legal fees any more than anybody else does, but, you know, the article written in Treasure Coast newspapers, I guess, had some really good points in it. And I just think our guys, like Laura said, our guys and gals up in Tallahassee didn't get the job done until the last day. And that's a shame. It really is a shame. That's why we need to talk about what we need to talk about, and hopefully I'll still have two friends after we get through with this. But I have brought it up just like they asked, and I don't hear any interest in joining the lawsuit. So,
I would like to say there are things, and I would hope that I would hear, you know, pursuant to the state conversation, there are some really good things in this bill. It gives the districts the potential to eliminate VAM. It does provide at least over $800,000 in teacher bonuses. I know it's not a raise, and you can't get a mortgage with it, but you can pay your mortgage for a month with it. It's about $1,200 for those highly effective teachers, the 62% of teachers that we have here in the county. I believe it's a little over 660 teachers that are guaranteed that bonus. I'm for parental choice. I'm for giving teachers bonuses. I'm for giving teachers time to teach and not to the test, to push the test window back, and to make sure that when the students are tested, that they're tested using an instrument that is valid and reliable, and that they can use a paper. That was a $15 million investment that the legislature made in moving to paper pencil. That's something that we heard from teachers and parents was important, so that we were not testing the students' technology skills at the 3rd grade level, but whether or not they can do the math and analyze a piece of literature and learn to read. So there is some good in there, and I've said it a million times. I'd rather fund classrooms, not courtrooms. Let's pay teachers, let's pay nurses, let's pay secretaries, and not pay lawyers. That is my preference, and I appreciate the board. No offense, Mrs. D'Agresto, you earn your pay, but if it comes down to making a decision to pay a teacher or a lawyer, I'm all in on teachers. So that's just my thoughts.
Last round, okay?
Yes, sir. So in our legislative platform, we did ask that the legislators in Indian River County, and we spoke with Debbie Mayfield and with Aaron Grahl about class size flexibility, about asking for that. That's another privilege that charter schools have that we do not have. That, again, you know, I'm all for the paper and pencil testing, but in 5th grade we had a digital one-to-one initiative. So where's that local control and flexibility given to the district to know what's best for the students that they have?
Gone.
And to me, you know, we talk a lot about local control, and I hear that as something that's very important, and I think that I would ask that our legislators, when they go up to Tallahassee, remember that they need to fight for that for us, and to not forget the fact that they're representing Indian River County constituents when they go, their local constituents, because I did feel that, I didn't know that local control was as protected as it could have been, because we should have, the superintendent and his staff should have the flexibility to meet student needs in the best way they see fit. Like the paper and pencil testing. Sean, we went one-to-one digital in 5th grade. Now the kids will take paper and pencil. So in 3rd grade, yeah, that works. In 5th grade, the teacher should have the flexibility to give the test on the computer if that's what their students are most comfortable with.
Well, you mentioned our legislative platform. Paper pencil was on our legislative platform, so we told them we wanted that, and now I guess we don't want that.
No, we don't. That's not what I'm saying.
Please don't speak over me. I have the floor. Thank you. So when we, and both of our representatives from this area voted for this legislation. So if you want to alienate yourself from the legislature, please sue them. That's one great way to go about doing it. Otherwise, you can form a solution-oriented partnership with them and fix it next time, whether it's a classroom size amendment. And the thinking is that, you know, what we heard from the teachers, what we heard from many stakeholders was that the paper pencil test is important. It's not necessarily so that it's not, we're not getting rid of the one-to-one initiative. The one-to-one initiative isn't about testing. The one-to-one initiative is about teaching and learning on the platform, and the testing is just another thing we do with the laptops. So to say that we are going to, you know, that's a violation of local control, there's nothing saying that the teachers can't teach on the one-to-one, and that's the real purpose, is it's not, you know, are we in the testing business or are we in the education business? And the test should become, to my mind, this is my philosophy, it's something you just do at the end of the year. You do it once and you take as little time as possible to make sure that a year of learning has happened in a year of education opportunities, and that's the purpose of the test. Now, the one-to-one initiative I see as a separate issue.
So my purpose in bringing that up was to say that as we continue to craft a new legislative platform, when Laura and I arrived on the board, that was kind of a rush thing. We were right at that moment, and we have an opportunity at this board to craft a better thought-out legislative platform going forward. I would like us to continue to have conversations about that as I see the demands of, as I continue to see. The paper pencil didn't have to be a across-the-board mandate. It could have been a flexibility. We did ask for it, but there could be flexibility given by the legislature for us to meet student needs. And I think that is one of the things as we continue to move forward and craft a legislative platform that I would ask that this board considers, that we ask for that flexibility and local control, and we continue to push for class size flexibility as well.
Last input, Sean.
Thank you. I just, do you know why it is a statewide initiative? Did you ask a legislator or the chair or the speaker or anyone why it's a mandate that is statewide rather than a local control? rather than letting districts decide? Because the answer is this. They don't want, if you look at like Six Sigma, or if you look at any other process and analysis, variables are the devil. So you don't want variation. You don't want Brevard taking it on computer, Indian River taking it on paper, and then the two of them have to compare their district grades when the data suggests and the data supports that students will do better on paper pencil test. So that is why they didn't want a whole system of hodgepodge comparing Brevard to Ocala or Osceola County to whatever. So that's the purpose in making it uniform statewide. Plus, if you look at Title IX, the word uniform is right there. So we have to have a uniform system of education.
But Mr. Frost, isn't that the point? The point is that to compare Indian River County to Miami-Dade you can't. Different students, different economy, different population with different challenges. The idea that you can give a school a grade or a district a grade and then somehow compare them, to me, doesn't make a lot of sense. I just don't think it gives a lot of understanding or a lot of empathy to, or consideration to the customers that you're serving in your district if you're going to compare everyone in one broad sweep. That's just my thought process on it.
I believe every student can learn wherever they live and whatever their circumstances. That's
Sure.
just my belief.
It's your turn.
Well, I think I pretty well said what I need to say. I think that we, as a board, and we need to really stress to our legislators these large bills at the last minute where you don't have time to dispute and change. That has to end. I know it's been a strategy the last couple of years and on the education bills because there's a lot of good things and then a little, things that we wouldn't accept mixed in, and it's too late for us to really object the bad parts. So I really think as a board we need to stress with our legislators that we're not going to accept that coming up this year.
Okay.
Mr. Susie?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I just want to put it in a general thing, because I think Ms. Sork kind of brought it all home, but yes. First of all, I was on a city council, and we did sue our neighbor, and we won, because we were protecting the rights of the city of Sebastian. This was in all the massive annexations that Fellsmere did, whereas they don't even have a supermarket in Fellsmere, and yet would be coming to our river and recreation. So we stood up for our citizens on taking some recreation dollar, and everybody was like, oh, you're such the bad guy. I don't think it's a bad guy to stand up for what you feel is right, and at that time that board collectively did that, and they won. In this particular case, the risk isn't worth the reward. There's many things about the bill that we do like, maybe different things, maybe not collectively, but I think we've all agreed that it's not worth suing. But I also feel that as we wouldn't want to be sued individually, that we make board decisions as a board, I would not care if my legislators, and I do also want to say, got upset that we sued, not them personally, but because we stood up for whether it's this or something else. So if it was something that I was that passionate about, but I really think it's the process, and I think that's probably what, not people who are complaining to us, I could say, but maybe what we could collectively agree on, that when you make a massive bill, you're bound, with so many moving parts and elements, you're bound to step on somebody's feet passionately about one of them. And I think that that's what this bill created, and it's problematic. But again, risk reward, there's, I can't carve out what I like and what you like and what you don't like, and it's, again, taxpayer dollar. But for those who have talked to me, I've heard, and I agree, and there are some parts about that. I just wish that the business of the day was done differently in Tallahassee. End of story.
Okay, now this is highly irregular, but Sean, I cut you off a couple of meetings ago, and if you have anything else to bring up during the discussion?
No, well, I'll bring it up rather than a member matters. I attended, rather than go into member matters.
Not school board member matter, discussion now.
Discussion, well, okay, well, I'll come back to me.
We should do discussion and member
Yeah,
matters.
okay.
That's fine.
Okay?
I'll save it.
Okay.
Just a minute.
You have anything for discussion? I have one. I heard a thing about a teacher moving around called looping. where you move the teacher in the first grade, let's say, up with her class to go to the second grade.
Yes, sir.
Is that something we can do? It makes so much sense to me, because those teachers already know those students, they know where they are, they know what they're doing, they know how many can read and what level they can read. Is that something we can look at?
We do that in some of our elementary schools currently. And I've worked in other districts where it's done quite often at usually at elementary school, sometimes at middle school. The teacher has to feel comfortable teaching the next grade level standards and that kind of thing. So we do it if the situation is right.
Do you have any research on it that shows that those students are better off by having that teacher for 2 years in a row, or?
I can't quote any of the research myself. I don't know if Mrs. Dampier is aware of any of the research, but we can find some of that and get back to you.
Well, you know, the way we get better is by trying things like that and then finding out what the results are. In our 5-year plan, we want to know what the results are, and I think Ms. Dampier wants to speak now, so.
I haven't done it here, but as a previous principal, I did have teachers loop with their kids. And parents loved it because, you know, they knew, like Dr. Rendell said, when they came in the next year, they started right where they left off. They knew the assessments, they knew what level the kids were. They didn't have to do all of the trying to get to know the parents as well as get to know the students. They were ready to go. And they had built those relationships. And the kids felt more like a family as well. There are pros and cons. I've had it where parents said that they didn't. It wasn't a good experience. So it goes both ways. Of course, when I did it at my school, I had the parents they could opt out or opt in, and the majority of the the parents opted in, because research does show that, you know, if kids have that relationship with the teacher, they're going to perform better in the classroom, as well as building that community in the classroom with the students and their peers.
So is it something we can continue to look at and get results on it and see if we can move ahead? I mean, I can't tell the superintendent to do anything, by the way, but this board can, but it just makes so much sense. If our, especially in the early grades, if our young people get a comfort level with school, they might be more successful. And we got to have them reading by the end of the 3rd grade, so, you know, to me, it makes a lot of sense.
Yes, sir. Like I said, we actually do it at some of our elementary schools already. I know Mrs. Spacer at Treasure Coast Elementary did it last year with some of her teachers. So it's something in place, a practice that's in place. But again, it's not the right solution for every situation.
That's when you have the opt-out.
Yep.
Or opt-in. Okay. The next situation, issue under discussion is, we've talked about it before, but the single-gender classrooms. Have we given any more thought to that? I know there's some research that's been done recently about that. And, is there any benefit to us looking at that in our school district?
We did have several cases of that in the last couple of years. It'll be 2 years ago, I think, was the last time we had 2 single-gender classrooms, again at Treasure Coast Elementary under Kelly's leadership. It's again another solution that sometimes works in some situations. I'm not aware of any of our elementary schools that are pursuing that at this time. Ms. Dampier, anybody that you know of?
No, not single.
It's not something we're against or, you know, that we prohibit or anything. If the principal and the teachers think it's the best solution for a group of kids, and it's something we can do.
Well, again, I can't tell you what to do, but it sure does sound exciting to me. So I hope that Ms. Bashura might look at that in her new position and recommendations.
She is in charge of elementary curriculum district-wide, so.
I'll be talking to her. Is she here tonight? Yeah.
She is.
Okay. Very successful. Okay. That's the 2 items that I have. And then we go to school board matters. Anybody else have any discussion items? I'm sorry. Okay, school board matters, member matters. Ms. Sork.
I don't. I'm just have my mind into the next meeting we're about to go into, so
Okay.
I don't have anything
All right.
tonight.
That's good. That's a good answer. Okay, good. Sean.
Thank you. I did have the opportunity to represent not only the school board, but also the Indian River County MPO, the Metropolitan Planning Organization, down at the regional Treasure Coast Traffic Council or something like that, along with Commissioner Tim Zork. And he was also an alternate. I'm the vice chair. I got to go because it's vacation season. And it's kind of neat because what's happening is the 3 counties are working together on our traffic plan out through the year 2040. And Commissioner Zork and I were able to secure an additional $500,000 for 66th Avenue from our colleagues in Martin and St. Lucie County. They were kind enough to yield those monies to Indian River because they saw that that was the best project. So hopefully we'll be a little bit closer to funding that $41 million project with an additional $500,000. So, but it's neat to work with colleagues from other jurisdictions and things like that. So that's the only committee update I have.
Yeah, I think I flushed everything out, but I have to say that when I was on city council, and we've seen some things about roads and things like, it takes almost 10 years. Roads are very interesting and roads are very powerful. It takes 10 years from start to finish to actually see a road, and a road will live longer than the legislator's life on the board, because they usually come in and go out by the time from actually, as you said, getting the vote for the actual road from that board to design to preparation and completion and built is, you know, a 10-year project. But we are very, very lucky. I'm sure I've never made it to regional, but we are very lucky as a district. I don't think people understand that we have our MPO, Metropolitan Planning, is strictly the district, but if you go up to Jacksonville, they share it with 3 different districts. So you can imagine their pot of money without even going to regional. So there's always an argument, well, you know, my district deserves this road, and my district. So we're very lucky that our legislators that are bolted together for the MPO and represent, and thank you for serving, get to do that. And then I want to just circle back because you know, as employees of the school district, we have just a little bit about who I am as a person. That, you know, again, I will argue for what I feel is right, and when this position on this board became vacant by Jeff Pegler, I was amongst many people to put in for it. And when I was interviewed, the first thing I said to the governor when interviewed personally was, I do have to tell you, Governor Scott, I am very sadly disappointed in you for taking the money of employees to buy into retirement. I don't think that was right. I felt it was a contract. And then I'm so sorry, and he gave me his reasons. And I remember all the way home from that interview going, why did I do that? Why did I do that? I'm not getting this job. But I did, but I had an honest conversation with him, and I think that, and I appreciate people coming and giving honest conversations. And as I said, if it means ruffling feathers, you know, I don't mind doing that for standing up for what is right. So I just wanted memories of something that you said brought me back to that. So this is a little bit about me as a person. That's it.
Ms. Justice.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. So lots of really great things happening in the school district, and I've still been busy with all of our meetings still go on in our committee things. So I represent the school district as a liaison to the Moonshot Moment, and so I wanted to speak a little bit about at our last meeting in June, I said I'd be attending a literacy and motion performance at Vero Beach Museum of Art, and I just want to say thank you to the museum for being such a dedicated community partner. The kids loved it. It was a wonderful performance, and we're very thankful to the Learning Alliance for funding and helping so many different things in this school district, not only directly with students, but with teachers. So there was also a Moonshot Institute where there were many teachers who came and worked and were given professional development. So thank you for that. Other trainings going on, tons of professional development happening in Indian River County. So when we talk about why this is such a great place to work, I see the support that our teachers and our staff are receiving. I know that there's been a Standards Institute, there's a Positive Behavior and Support Institute. I know that the Digital Summer Academy is going on right now, and there are about 400 teachers that are being trained to help their students with digital learning. So it's just wonderful that we're creating those supports so that teachers can reach their students. A big shout out to Kate Fiore, who represented our district so beautifully at the Teacher of the Year ceremony. She did not win, but congratulations to the winner. I think her name was Tammy Jenkins. I think that sounds right. Anyway, congratulations to her. But Kate's a winner in our eyes, so if you're watching, Kate, we're really proud of you, and thank you for doing such a wonderful job representing us. The United Way, I'm on the Day of Caring Committee. The United Way Day of Caring is October 14th. We'll be addressing that with principals and I was lucky enough to be a part of a team last year at my children's elementary school. It was a great way to give back and to teach students about taking care of your community and all the good work that United Way does. So October 14th, mark it on your calendars. Think about volunteering at your home school, or if you are watching this and you're a community member and you'd like to volunteer at the school that's close to you, our elementary schools will all have a project going on at their campus, and then there's going to be a secondary project that we'll unveil soon. I'm on the executive roundtable. I represent the school board, and we continue to vision Kids at Hope going forward. In the future, Ms. Aretha Varnett is the new principal at Dodgertown Elementary, and she has some experience in St. Lucie County with Kids at Hope. So that's really exciting for Indian River County because we have someone that's implemented that program, is very familiar with it. It's a big commitment by the principal and by the school, and it's great for students, so it's a great fit for Dodgertown, and we're excited to see that program expand, especially with the support of GYAC, who is fully invested in Kids at Hope. There is a tunnel of hope on Friday morning at the GYAC. I believe it is at 8:30?
Lineup's at 8:45, I believe, and the tunnel's at 9.
Maybe come at 8:30 and get your hand out ready to give some high fives and be part of the Tunnel of Hope. You can make a poster. The kids really enjoy it. It's a great thing to be a part of if you've never been a part of it. And it's every child, no exceptions, that every child is capable of success. So it's such a wonderful message, and I'm proud to be a part of it. That is it.
That's it?
Yes,
Oh,
sir.
okay,
I believe
good.
so.
Okay, the information agenda, you got it on there. Superintendent's closing.
No closing tonight, sir.
No closing? Okay, we'll just stay.
We're done,
stay
thank
here.
you.
Okay. All right, well, this meeting is adjourned.